Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so sorry I have not published an episode in 2 weeks. It's been a very hectic past 2 weeks for me. I've been working crazy hours, doing the absolute most as per usual, but I wanted to get on here and just give a little mini update. Be getting back into the regular swing of episodes after this, so thanks for holding on there with me. I actually had a really cool experience the past 2 weeks. I actually just finished working the Super Bowl a week ago. It's still crazy to think about. I was there and I got to film parts of the game. I got to kind of take pictures of people, and it was a really cool experience. I will say it was one of the most tiring days of my life. I woke up at 5 a.m. and then left for the stadium at about 6 a.m. and was there from 6:30 in the morning, and then I got back to my apartment at 1 in the morning the next day. So it was a very long and tiring day, but I would relive it in a second just because of the experience of it all. Very much a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I am just rewatching Rihanna's halftime performance on YouTube every day, trying to relive that glorious moment. I got some really cool shots of Rihanna. If you guys go to my other profile, you'll see them on Instagram. But it was just a really cool experience, and like I said, I was so busy doing like Super Bowl stuff the past 2 weeks that I really just didn't have time to publish an episode or get something of decent quality for you guys. And I am very much a quality over quantity type of person, so apologies again, but we're back and here we are. I'm trying to think of updates I have. Honestly, my life's just been working, so I feel like it's going to be a very boring episode. But this past weekend, I went on a date with a guy from Raya. I got on Raya about maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. If you're not sure what Raya is, it's like an exclusive dating app where you essentially have to be like somewhat famous or known to get on. I'm not really sure how I got myself on there, but when I applied and I got on in like 2 days, and people were on like these crazy waiting lists to get on to Raya. So yeah, again, not sure how I made it on, but I did. And I've been using it. It's fun to just kind of like look at people, and every now and then you'll see some like actual like real celebrities. It's a lot of just like DJs, like artists, sort of like higher exec people that are on there. I think a lot of it is like what you do for work and what you look like, and that kind of gets you on or doesn't get you on. Anyway, I've been on the app for like 5 months and I have not had a single actual date from it. I think partially because it doesn't just show you people in your city, it's showing you people from like everywhere. So, like, I'll see guys from New York, LA is a huge one. And it's like, well, I live in Arizona. So, how am I supposed to like go on a date with a guy from New York City unless they're like gonna fly me there, which is like kind of sketchy. So yeah, I haven't really gotten anywhere, but I went on my first Raya date this past weekend and it was horrible. He was an athlete. I'll just say that. He was an athlete, and I guess that was probably the first red flag. I don't know. Not like a big athlete or anything, just like it was something he did like on the side, and he was super like sociable, very good at texting, like very assertive too over text, like saying things like, yeah, like I can't wait to meet you, or and like actually giving ideas of things to do, not just like making me think of plans. So he was like a very good texter, and I was like, okay, I'm actually kind of excited. Like my first Raya date. I've been super busy working, so like this will be fun. I was wrong. So we go to this bar because I feel like a good first date is always just like drinks, because you can always just, keep the date going if you want to have more, or you can leave after one drink. So I get there and I'm really excited, and he got there like 5 minutes before me. So I sit down, and the first thing out of his mouth is, I am freaking out right now. I just gave my car to valet and I don't feel good about it. And I was like really confused. We were not like a very high class bar. It was like a sports dive bar. And I was like, what are you talking about? But I did see the valet people there. They're just like there because it's like not a very busy, or it's not a very like big parking lot. So it's like complimentary, but it's not like sketchy or anything. And I was like, oh, like, do you want to go check on your car? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, but I'm like freaking out right now. And I'm like, it's literally like 10 steps away. Like, why don't you just go and, talk to talk to the valet guys, and like maybe go just see that your car's there to give you some peace of mind. He's like, nah, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. And he just like doesn't say anything else. Like, I don't even know if he said hi when I sat down. First thing out of his mouth was, I'm freaking out right now. And then after he like has that little mini panic attack, he doesn't even say anything else. He's just like sits there. And so I'm like, okay, well, like, starting to ask him like the basic questions of life and just stuff you would say on a first date, like, oh, like, what do you do for work? And, stuff like that. And he's answering, but he just like did not seem very engaged. And the bar we were sitting at, like I said, was like kind of like a sports bar. So there were TVs like surrounding the main bar part. We were like on a table off to the side. As he was talking to me, he would only look at the TV. So like you're sitting across from someone, right? And like you're looking at them, making like eye contact while you talk to someone, like someone would do. But he's sitting at like a 45-degree angle, slightly looking at the TVs the whole time he's talking. Every like 60 seconds or so, he would like look over at me for like 2 seconds and back at the TV. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, what is going on? And I like made it a point too to like stare directly at him, because I was like, is he just not gonna look at me? Like, am I that ugly? I was like, what is going on? And when I told my roommate about it later, she said, he probably just has like social anxiety. And I'm like, okay, well, we all do, but like if you're talking to someone and having a conversation, yet alone you're on a first date with someone, like you should not be staring at the TVs the whole time. And like it wasn't like a very like, oh, just like, look to the side and see the score. Like there were no even games on, because like the Super Bowl had already happened. Like there's no football on. Like there was nothing on that night. So he's just like staring at like random nonsense on the TV. And I just thought it was super, one, weird and kind of disrespectful, whatever his reasoning was. So that was weird. And then he didn't ask me a single question about myself other than just like, so what do you do for work? And then like I told him, didn't ask me any follow-up questions or anything. So we would sit there for like a minute with like nothing to say. And part of me wanted to just be like, how long can I go without talking to see if this guy like thinks of a question or like something to say to me. But I was genuinely just so uncomfortable by the silence that I just kept asking him like random questions I would think of, because I was like, all right, like I can't do this. Part of me was like, I should just get up and leave because it's a waste of my time. But I didn't want to be like super rude. I was like, you know what, I can just kill an hour, like go home, it's fine. He like bought me a drink, so I didn't want to just like get up and leave. If I had like cash maybe to like put down on the table and be like, hey, like I'm not feeling it, I'm gonna go, like here's like $10 or whatever, then maybe I would have. Probably not though, because that sounds scary. But it was so weird. And then it got even weirder after like 10 minutes of sitting there, me asking him questions. He goes, so I'm not really into small talk, and let's just get into it. So I was engaged a year ago, and I'm like, what? I didn't ask you this, bro. And he's like, yeah, so I was engaged a year ago. Things didn't work out, obviously. And he like kind of starts to talk about it. And now I'm kind of interested because I'm like, one, I didn't ask you about your past relationship history. You just brought it up. Two, I'm now slightly entertained because this is kind of a juicy story. So I was like, well, why did it not work out? And he's like, I still don't really know. Which just, I mean, this whole guy is just a giant red flag. But you telling me that you were engaged a year ago and now you're dating again, that's probably still too soon. But then the fact that you bring it up within 10 minutes of being on this date, and then you're telling me that you don't know why you broke up, clearly shows that you haven't processed the situation. So I'm just sitting there like, I'm literally never going to see you ever again. But again, it was just like kind of entertaining, and I was like, you know what, I'll talk about this on the podcast. So I may as well just like I said, just like burn an hour here. But yeah, it was a very uncomfortable date. And he seemed like he was kind of into me, but like I couldn't really tell because he, again, wouldn't look at me. But yeah, he was just talking about how he like never goes out, doesn't like to go on dates. Basically just selling himself as a completely different person than he did over text. Like he told me that he liked to go out drinking and have fun, and then in person he's like, yeah, I pretty much like don't drink a lot and I just play like video games. And I'm just like, okay. So like what's your I don't know, like what do you say to that? So yeah, the whole thing was super weird. And then the waitress came over and she's like, you guys want another round? And I'm like, can we just take the check? Like, I didn't care anymore. I was like, I need to get out of here. Like, I could be at home, like in bed, watching TV. So he goes, oh, if you're not having fun, like, just say so. Kind of joking, kind of not. And then I was like, no, like, I have to work tomorrow. So I'm not trying to, like, be out super long drinking all night. And then I lied and I was like, if I didn't like you, I would have just gotten up and left. And he was like, you probably wouldn't. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because I obviously didn't. But, I tried to just make light of it and be like, no, I just have to work, a very classic excuse. But like, dude, do you think I'm having fun sitting here while I ask you questions about yourself that you vaguely answer while you stare at the TV? And like talk about how you were engaged a year ago? Probably not. So yeah, we got out of there. He did pay. I mean, that's like the least he could do. I only had one drink because I was like, I gotta get out of here. And then we walked to the parking lot together. I was like, is your car here? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I'm glad. See ya. And then I went home. So yeah, that was super weird, but I think the other funny part of the story is the very next day I was at work and I couldn't find like a piece of equipment that I needed, but like I had it on my desk, but I got up for like 10 minutes to like go do something else. So I texted my boss and I said, hey, like, did you grab this thing? Like, I need it. Did you move it? But I accidentally sent it to that guy because his text was like right below where my boss's texts were. And I immediately like hit airplane mode, like it didn't say delivered yet, and then I hit like unsend. So I was like, oh, okay, phew. Because like I was never planning on speaking to this guy ever again. But then like an hour later, he texts me and he's like, why would you think that I would have that? Like, what? And I was like, dude, obviously I didn't mean to send you that. Like, this dude's just like, he's like got no common sense. So I responded and I just said, sorry, wrong person. And luckily he didn't say anything back. But I'm like, are you serious? Like, obviously I sent that to the wrong guy. Like, calm down. So yeah, just overall, very strange. I don't want to say it was a total waste of my time because like I said, I think every date you go on, whether it's a great date and you want to like continue it, or it's like less than an hour like mine was, is still worth your time in a way. Because I mean, all I really learned from that guy was that there are dudes out there who are so emotionally unavailable that they're literally going to talk about their ex engagement over a first date. So yeah, like I said, it was an entertaining, well, slightly entertaining, because I was doing most of the talking, first hour. And yeah, I mean, I had a nice little cocktail and went home. So can't complain too much. But yeah, that was awful. So that did not really set up the Raya dating scene very well for me. I had high hopes, considering all the people on it have some sort of like status or just like something more unique to them that gets them to be even like allowed onto the app per se. So the fact that my first ever Raya date went so horribly, just kind of, I'm like, I don't really have very high hopes for this app. But yeah, it's still entertaining to go on. And like I said, I think it's just kind of fun to see actual real celebrities. So very cool. I'm trying to think what else I have for you guys. I thought that was the most interesting thing that happened to me over the past weekend. Yeah, I think the only other update really is that, I mean, if you're familiar with what was going on these past 2 or 3 weeks, Phoenix, Arizona was pretty much just a hot spot for tourists. Like I said, the Super Bowl was just here, and then we also had the Waste Management Open, which is the big golf tournament that they do every year here in Scottsdale, and that itself is a big drive of people coming into town for this very large event. And then you mix that with it being the same weekend as the Super Bowl here, and it was crazy. I did go to Waste Management one day and I was like freaking out because I hate sitting in traffic and I'm a very impatient person. So I was like, you cannot pay me to like go to that tournament this year, like with everything going on, like it's not going to be fun. And then what do you know, I am talked in literally the night before into just going for like half a day because people had all these plans and a free ticket. And I was like, all right, well, why not? And it ended up being very chill. When I went like 4 years ago, I think I waited in traffic for like over 2 hours. But this time, like we drove right in, no problem, parked the car, like 10-minute walk from the entrance. And then when we left, like no traffic either. I mean, I left a little bit earlier than probably the rest of the world did, but I was like, this is so nice. Like maybe they finally figured out how to get people in and out of here without anything happening. Yeah, I was making jokes all weekend, and it's actually not really a joke, but I kept saying I was scared that some type of like, this sounds so bad. I'm like afraid to say this, but it's a true fear. Like I was afraid that some sort of like terrorist attack or like shooting was going to happen like somewhere in Arizona because of these two giant events with like massive amounts of people. So I was like very on guard the entire time I was at the golf tournament. It's all outdoors, and the security was like decent, but like I could have very easily like snuck something in if I tried. The Super Bowl security was literally so top notch, like I don't think anything could have slipped by in there. But it's kind of sad that like I have to live in a world where that's like one of the first things that cross my mind, is that like something bad could happen at such like a big and happy, joyful event. Sadly, that's just like kind of the world that we live in right now, and I think being aware of that is important, but also being able to still have fun at the same time. You know, like I didn't let the idea of something bad happening hold me back, but at the same time, like it was a constant thought the whole weekend that like something could happen. And luckily nothing did happen, so amazing. We love that. I just realized this episode went from me talking about a Raya date to me talking about like a possible shooting. So if that tells you anything about my state of mind right now, I am still super tired. I've been saying I've been recovering for this entire week from the past 2 weekends, because it was just so much. So you can kind of see that my mind is just all over the place, which is why I put off doing an episode. But I want to just put out a little mini one here for you guys. Quick update. We will be back into the full swing of things next week. I think I'm going to read you guys some of my Hinge responses. I realized that I have so many guys that I've just like collected screenshots of who, like, when they respond to one of my prompts or they'll just say something really weird, I'll like screenshot it and like send it to my friends. So I have a whole collection of like weird things that guys have said, and I think I'm just gonna like read them because they're kind of funny, kind of weird, but yeah, that's gonna be an episode, so we have that to look forward to. Thank you guys again for listening to this very strange turn of events episode. I hope you enjoyed my story. If you're trying to get on Raya and you haven't made it on, do not feel discouraged, because I think unless you live in New York City or LA, there's really no point to it, because that's where most of the people live. So just enjoy it, because the one date I went on was absolutely a dumpster fire. So yeah, we're going to end it here before I just keep rambling. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you back in action next week.